Welcome to my show. A guest here. His name is David Howie. Mr. David, how are you doing, sir? All
I will, thank you.
right, thank you so much for the time and the opportunity, Mr. David. Firstly, you are an author. You also hold an MSc in social innovation. Can you please, Mr.
Mm.
David, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mr. David?
Yeah, so I am the author of the book Not Identity, The Search for Wellbeing. And my medical background was that I was diagnosed with a brain tumour as a child, as a cancerous brain tumour. And as a result, growing up has been a challenge. Between the ages of, say 5 to about 18, things were going okay. Obviously, there was the recovery time between, say, again, 5 to maybe 16. So about between the ages of 18 to 22, 24 were fantastic because you had a lot of friends, you were going to a lot of gigs, uh, trying to play football. Obviously, quite hard without this due to the chemotherapy, radiotherapy side effects. But trying to play football was doing reasonably okay. And then you hit a point where all your friends are starting to get married, starting to have kids, obviously driving, a lot of things that you can't do because of the long-term side effects of the brain tumour. And I'll emphasise brain tumour, it's not all cancer, but specifically the location of the brain tumour in the back of the head, which affects me the most. So as a result, I started to try to find myself, and that meant going back to university to do another undergrad degree. That was with Open University in the UK. So I was doing that and I was working part time. And then I done my master's degree, thinking I could get a job in the Scottish third sector. The problem there was that the Scottish Government and the UK Government don't have the funding to allow people to live well. So my option was to try to set up a social enterprise. But again, the way things are structured in the UK, the funding just wasn't there, which had a massive impact on my well-being. It had to set me back a few years, which is when I decided to write the book. So that's kind of where we are. And it's a good place to be because it's given me back part of the identity that I lost, but it's still what will the future hold. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment.
It's never definitely easy, Mr. David, and I totally understand. Having such situation in childhood and bringing it to the adulthood, and also my heart really go to the job you actually had one or two issues, which actually led you to write this beautiful book. It is definitely a up and down, and definitely not easy in the time that we are. Having a brain tumor at a very childhood age and having it through the challenges increases, every ups and down increases, and every situation just comes in, and one have to just battle it in the life he or she have found himself. And I'm so glad that after this issue you decided to write a book, Lost Identity. Can you please, Mr. David, discuss more on that book? And do you also have more books you are planning to write in the coming future, Mr. David?
The reason for the book was effectively, in one way, it's a direct reply to a book called Stories of Cancer and Hope, which to me doesn't do enough to emphasise the structure of society and how society can impact someone with cancer. So in a sense, it was a direct response, but it was also my way of telling my story and try to persuade politicians to actually listen to someone who has the lived experience, but not necessarily the position on any board in order to actually implement the system change, which I think is required. Now, in regards to other books, possibly. I wouldn't write it out. The way this book is structured, so the lost identity, the search for well-being, it's written in such a way that it's a call to action for the upcoming Scottish Government elections and asks them to move towards a well-being identity-based project or act. So it has life cycle in theory between now and the end of the parliamentary session in 2031, I believe. After that, yes, definitely a book could be in the horizon.
That is very beautiful. And it's also very beautiful to bring out this beautiful book, Lost Identity, to bring out the triumphs, the ups and downs, and also to get people to understand how it is in this type of situation when it comes to brain tumor and also damages that it follows through the area or when it comes to those areas in life. And also, that is why I would like to dive to the point of Jason Bourne syndrome. You coined that term, Jason Bourne syndrome, Mr. David, in your story. Can you please, Mr. David, explain what that means and how do you think it reflects your experience of memory and identity, Mr. David?
Yeah, so Jason Bourne syndrome, it's important to first recognise what it's not. So I said this in the book, it's not a sense of damage to the brain in regards to the way you'd think of a neurological disease or a psychological problem. What it is it's my acknowledgement that there seems to be almost two thought patterns going on in my brain. One is that I am always going to be heavy. Heavy is altruistic. He wants to give back to the community and want to help others. But society and my degrees and what I've also done has said to say that no, you need to go and get a job, you need to go and buy a house, you need to go and do all this, which is fair enough. So if you think of the movie Jason Bourne, it gets to a point, obviously starts off not knowing who he is, but it gets to a point where he becomes Jason Bourne and David Webb. So he's two people and you can't separate both of them. So we're always that both of them are him. That's how I feel, and that was the idea of Jason Bourne syndrome. I am effectively one person, but with two minds, and it's not as if it can be psychologically cured, but it's just who I am. You can't fix it. But yeah, that's where the term came from.
Yeah.
How I think society can deal with it is another question. I mean, we do have support for people with ADHD and support for people who are neurodiverse. But as I said in the book, when it comes to understanding the long-term side effects of a brain tumour, there's not enough understanding. And I think that is where we have to get to as a society, just understanding what is going on. And it's hard because they're still very, very young in regards to the understanding of this.
Yes, I completely agree with you, Mr. David. We have to understand what brain tumor really is. We have to understand it. We have to know how it definitely affects the ups and downs. And also the term Jason Bourne syndrome that definitely brought more details regarding those perspectives. So understanding brain tumor will definitely give us the experience and also give us that kind of exploration and how it definitely affects one another and how we can also be a part of a person who support, who show love, who show care to such person because we do know how it is. And also, I would like to dive to what you wish more people understand regarding this hidden long-term effects. So, what do you
Mhm.
wish, Mr. David, people really understood about the hidden long-term effects of surviving serious childhood illness, especially neurodivergent outcomes, Mr. David?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll take this in regards to if you look at what's happening quite a lot right now on social media, a lot of people are telling their stories, and it's a great thing that people do have the confidence to do it. What I find is that if there's not a physical element to this, I mean, my speech now has improved a lot since I was diagnosed. Obviously, I can't see out of this eye with I wear glasses. As a few other long-term issues, but for the most part, and I've said this in the book, I'm about 80% able to function in society. So it's that 20% which people don't understand, and that's the inability to walk in a straight line. Sometimes it takes just a little bit longer to write an email or to answer someone. So it's just little things like that that I wish people would. I say people. I think it's got to come from top down. It's got to be governmental thinking and training in regards to how the possibility of a long-term brain tumour is actually quite similar to ADHD, and how we can actually use a framework to actually support people who have had a brain tumour, who may not have ADHD but have ADHD-like symptoms, and then look at the brain injury, because obviously there's a lot of work being done on that at the moment, and say there's a link between internal brain injury, i.e. the brain tumour, and external brain injury. So there's a lot of work still to be done, but we do hopefully have the ability to do it.
Yes, I completely agree, Mr. David. I think it could get to a point of a governmental issue when it comes to this long-term effect. As you said earlier, it affects many things when someone has such issues. Having to read email a very long time, having to do some things more slowly. A lot of things just comes up when someone has such type of issue one is passing through. And we definitely, as community and also government, and most of the time need to really check on it and also know how they could definitely support with people who are facing this thing in a very long term. So the long term effect is definitely not easy, and one has to definitely deal with it, which is not definitely easy. Which gets us back to the people, with the people, I as a person, and every single person in the society. How do you think
Yeah.
we can better support individual whose life paths doesn't follow the conventional narrative due to chronic illness or neurodivergence, Mr. David?
Yeah, it's very hard, because obviously there's not a single person who will have the exact same symptoms. So you're trying to design a framework to support everyone. Now, obviously in the UK or in Scotland, the education system does try to work in order to support people with brain injuries and with neurodivergent. And the Scottish Government are very good at it. But as I said, I don't think there's been enough studies over the years, because where I am is in a very tricky situation. So having done my degree, my master's degree, and having done all the sort of work that I've done with the Scottish third sector, which obviously is which, how do I word this? So it's a voluntary sector in the UK. So I have a lot of experience. Now the job that I would want would be probably in the hierarchy of those organisations. But I'm competing against people who are neurotypical, yeah, that's the word, neurotypical, or who are non-disabled. So it's very hard. I'm competing against someone who has not had to face a brain tumour, who's not had to grow up with long-term conditions, who hasn't faced setbacks. So even though you can get to a point where you can get the master's degree, you can get all the support through the third sector, and you can gain all that knowledge, it's still very hard to get that position, simply because you will not have the same work experience as them. They get to a position where most people who finish education in the UK will finish about 23, and then they've got their life in front of them towards the path, do the sort of groundwork for the job they want later on in life. For me, I done all that through volunteer, so it's a lived experience. It's not necessarily a job experience, which is a major barrier when it comes to actually getting a job later on in life. So how could the Scottish Government and the UK Government, and indeed all countries, support this? I don't know. I mean, it is dependent on the state how they choose to deal with this. I just wish that the UK Government and Scottish Governments would listen. And to an extent they are, but it comes down to money and it comes down to resources at the end of the day.
Yes, I am very much glad, Mr. David, that you had the opportunity to study, to have your education done as a person who has this tumor in him. I'm very much glad that actually happened. And that gives the point where I'm also very much glad that you got to your point whereby you need to volunteer. You need to do a lot of things out of free will, out from the bottom of your heart. And there is nothing more valuable than stuff like that, volunteering to do a lot of things. And we definitely hope from the governmental and also with the people could definitely do a lot to also support and also build oneself to also support the people who are facing situations like this, because it's definitely not easy. As you said earlier, with job it is really difficult to get a job when someone has such situations in life. So I definitely hope that definitely the developer come in this type of pattern of situation, because we are all humans and we definitely need to treat ourselves like one, and we definitely need that most of the time in our time currently. Also, I would like to ask for the changes, because in the current status and the current way how the world is, there might be changes you would probably like to see in the healthcare, probably in the education sector. So what changes, if there is any, Mr. David, what changes would you possibly like to see in healthcare, education, or employment for neurodivergent individual and long-term survivors of illness, Mr. David?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to education, there's probably not a lot that can be done. What you do find when you get to a higher education perspective, I master's degree, so it would have been helpful for me in order to have someone to proofread my documents before they were submitted. That is something a lot of higher education do not do, especially at a master's level. Um, as regarding the book, obviously I used a proofreader and a company to go over it and edit it, so that was how the book came about. If it wasn't for, was it? This is one of such. So I use a piece of software called Grammarly, which helps a lot. I don't know, I think most universities have Grammarly available, and I'm assuming most schools would have some version of it. If you're looking at it from a Scottish perspective, then okay, but then you're then saying people who are in Scotland or the UK are going to have an advantage over someone from another state, which, if you look at it that way, kind of creates an inequality, which you're trying to actually remove in the first place. So, in girls' education, that is kind of where I am, and I think where the Scottish Government are, because they are doing what they can do, in the sense that it just does not feel enough. When it comes to neurodiverse people in regards to the NHS, what I've said obviously in the book is that there's just not enough rehabilitation. And I think that does a lot to limit the confidence of people who are neurodiverse. And again, this has been highlighted right across social media. The NHS in the UK just does not have enough money in order to do a full rehabilitation. So you're at a point where you can walk, albeit never in a straight line, but you can at least walk, and you can do what they call that touch tile with a hand, so you can touch each finger quite fast. That is you rehabilitated apparently according to the Scottish Government, according to the NHS in the UK, which is not the case. Now, I have called in the book and working with partners for about 2.5 years to call for the integration of the NHS and personal trainers at level 3, level 4, in order to rehabilitate people. Still an ongoing sort of a work that we're working on, but that for me would be one solution.
We definitely hope that the developments come in. As you said earlier, the NHS and the other sectors that definitely need to do more better regarding the illness, regarding people who have this tumor, regarding people who are survivors of this illness. Because whether we like it or not, a lot of people have faced this illness, and we definitely need the educational sector and other sector to definitely give that development to support them and to also teach them the right things that they need to know so that they can definitely live a life that will fulfill the community in a very, very huge way. Having
Yeah,
illness is not easy. Illness is one of the most traumatic things that we ever face, and that is why we definitely need sectors that will definitely do more to improve and also make life better for this type of people who are having this long-term chronic illness. And I also want to sincerely thank you for that insight, Mr. David. Thank you so much for that, Mr. David. And lastly, I want to
you're
like go
welcome.
to your Lost Identity, your book. If listeners would just take one message from that's your memoir, which is your book, in this episode, what do you think it would be, Mr. David?
Hopefully it would be to be kinder to others, to take time to understand, to hear what people are saying, not just listen to what they're saying. And I think that's the main thing that actually would have to come out of this, is that we can't move forward as a society until we actually hear people. It's okay for governments and the third sector to create what we call focus groups and to get people's opinions. But if all they're doing is noting down what people have said and not actually heard what they've said, then there's still a major barrier that we have to tackle. So I hope anybody who is reading my book or will read my book can look at it and go, okay, I'm going to learn something. I'll just finish off by, if you look at the way I structured it, which was my ARIF model, so it was acquire, learn, educate, associate, and then fulfill. So it's okay to acquire the information, but until you actually learn what the information is telling you, and then educate others round about you about what they can do in order to actually learn as well. And educate. So at the end, I said to sort of affiliation with people and try to network just to create that message. We would basically in the academic field call it a strategic action field. We are creating an action field where we can actually work together with others to network towards the wider fulfillment goal, which is to fully understand what issues someone with a long-term condition, be it neurotypical or any other, goes through life daily. But every day is not the same. One day you can be great, next day you can be so low that it's untrue.
I completely agree. As we people, we have to learn how to communicate. We have to learn how to make connection. We have to learn how to come together. It is very important. It is very necessary. It's for the benefit of every single one of us. So communication, gaining connection, and growing together will definitely help people with this kind of illness to definitely become more better, to know what the right thing, and also know how they could be better served as people. So we have to genuinely have this kind of connection and growth with guiding answer, which is very, very important. I have to be honest, Mr. David. So that is a very, very important thing we need to build connection, communication, for us to have this kind of community to build ourselves to make things more better for every single person. most especially people that are facing chronic illness, brain tumor, so they can definitely be better served. Lastly, Mr. David, there is a question I normally ask during the end of the show. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of things. There are a lot of things that do exist during our ancestral time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mr. David, what do you think that thing would be, Mr. David?
Yeah, so for me, it would be the community. I think we've lost a sense of community, like across probably all societies, but mostly in the UK, where it's about the individual, or in a sense, it can be about the family unit, but obviously children grow up and then they move out, and then that family unit is lost too. So the community itself is gone. I remember I read a quote a good while ago, it's a well-known quote, that it takes a community to raise a child, and that had been completely missed in modern day society, and we've got to go back to that system. It's got to be about community development and just bringing back the community spirit.
The place we are currently now is not easy. We need to bring community back. Family, friends, love, care, kindness. We shouldn't be selfish as humans. We should love ourselves. We should be kind to each other. There is nothing to take away from us. It is very important,
Yeah.
and that is why we need community. During our ancestral time, they really made it work. They really made that kind of love and kindness work. We shouldn't pressure ourselves unnecessarily. We should show that kind of love, that kind of kindness, that kind of love. I am sorry. Would you? Can you? Doesn't mean anything. We have to just continue to build a kind of community. We need it because we are definitely losing it. I have to be honest. We are losing it, and the world is more of isolated, very isolated. Even in my place here, it is not easy. So we definitely need this kind of community. We need to bring it back so that we can have this genuine connection, human kindness, love, and care, so that every single person will enjoy the depth of life before we leave this world. So I sincerely thank you. We definitely hope it come back. And Mr. David, I am so glad you are doing well, you are volunteering, and you are also doing some positive part to improve the society as a whole. And your beautiful book, Lost Identity. I also want to use this opportunity to honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the opportunity and the time for coming to the podcast show to also speak regarding this topic. Thank you so much, Mr. David.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Have a wonderful day, Mr. David. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.